Today, language is a central part of our lives, and since it has come into play, language has continually transformed humanity. Outside of just communication, it is used for everything from entertaining others to expressing our individuality. Now, vastly influenced by social media and technology, it continues to grow ever more essential as our world becomes increasingly interconnected. But just how has language been changing? To begin, let's start off with a simple question. Where do languages come from? It is probably important to note that the evolution of human anatomy has provided us with an elongated vocal tract that is capable of producing a number of speech sounds. This is an ability that other animals do not have, and why we have the advantage to communicate using words and sentences in the first place. Now, there are two major theories regarding the formation of languages. The first of which refers to evolutionary adaptation. Basically, this theory states that the human population at one point or another had to undergo some changes in order to better our chances of survival. And this makes sense, because humans who discovered new methods of survival would need a way to communicate their discoveries to the rest of the population, and because using language would be more effective opposed to a series of grunts and noises. The second theory refers to language as a sort of spandrel. Unlike evolutionary adaptation, this theory revolves around the concept that language is a product of evolution and not a specific adaptation but rather a pre-adaptation, otherwise known as exaptation. The idea that species use adaptation for a purpose other than what it was initially meant for. So in essence, bird feathers were initially meant to keep the bird warm but were only later on developed for flying. Likewise, language evolved because the cerebrium, the part of our brain which controls speech, was evolved enough for it first, and the cognitive structures that allowed us to make tools and learn rules also happen to be good for complex communication. Nevertheless, it is important to keep in mind that these two theories are not mutually exclusive. The neural structures that allowed language to evolve were likely there prior to natural selection. However, this fails to justify language in full with all of its complexities, like how we're able to string words together in a grammatically correct fashion. Maybe our ability to speak was exapted, but afterwards refined through the processes of natural selection. After all, the opportunity to speak wouldn't even exist had our brains not been evolved enough for it first. So then why does language change? Well, the answer is not so straightforward, and to put it briefly, there is a plethora of factors influencing the ever-changing language. These said factors range from those at a large scale, like social, economic, and political pressures. In the past, some of the largest changes in language have occurred post-invasion, colonization, and immigration. Language also changes because new technologies, industries, products, and experiences require a new vocabulary to clearly and effectively refer to them. In Shakespeare's time, telephones were not a thing, and thus telephone was not a word, nor was fax machine, internet, or cable TV. These words wouldn't even be around until after the 1950s if language did not change. And consider texting. Originally it was called text messaging, but as the action became more common, the process of writing and sending a message was simply shortened to text. Language evolved so much because each individual has their own language experience that varies tremendously based on age, gender, ethnicity, social status, and educational background. Through our integration and interaction with different speakers, we encounter new words, expressions, and pronunciations that are then integrated into our own speech, giving each one of us a slightly different set of words and constructions. As language is passed through the generations, its recreation of grammar and lexicon will never be perfect because of the difference in linguistic experience. These changes occur prominently within the younger members of each generation, who in the process of learning a language will internalize it and propagate it differently. Interactions among this group will also develop their language to include words and constructions different from previous generations, some of which will stick around to affect the language as a whole. Words are borrowed from other languages, shortened, combined, and created from being a wrong analysis of an existing word. Take peas, which, in the 17th century, used to refer to both more than or a single pea. This was over time pursued to be the plural form of a pea, and thus came about the separation of those two words.
Created using Powtoon.